Okay, so in our previous chapters that we looked at, we basically addressed an aspect of how we can best come up with this logical design of a given database. And of course, when we talk of the logical design, we are basically bringing in our an abstract made use of when we're coming up with the logical design of the database was the ERD modeling technique. And in this given ERD modeling technique, you get to find that you can be able to identify the different entities that you have in your database. How are these different entities closely related to one another? And as well, we bring in our multiplicity constraints on to these given different tables. So after we've looked at the logical design of the database, the next thing is we are expected to be coming up with the actual implementation. Just a second. We're supposed to come up with the actual implementation of the database. So when we bring in the actual implementation of the database, we expect that you as a given user, you're going to make use of a particular software tool that we are referring to as a DBMS. And in having this given software tool, you need to make use of a language, which is SQL, to basically be able to communicate with the database. So for starters, I'll make use of this given whiteboard, and the whiteboard will basically be our guiding principle in today's class. And of course, we are kickstarting off with an aspect of database programming. And in bringing in database programming, the main language that we're basically going to make use of is structured query language. So when we talk of structured query language being the language that we shall make use of to query the database, one of the questions you're going to ask yourself, what is SQL? When we talk of SQL database language, that users basically make use of to create or define database objects, to manage data within this given database, and to provide controlled access to the database. So ideally with SQL, we talk of it being a standard computer database language that we basically make use of to basically define, to manipulate, and provide controlled access. So those given three components are entailed in the three main components of SQL. So when we bring in the three main components of SQL, the first component of SQL, which is data definition language, we basically make use of to help us in creating and defining the different database objects that you make use of. A database has a wide range of objects, from tables to triggers to procedures and a wide range of views. You find that whenever you want to either create, define, or alter the structure, or modify or alter the structure of these different database objects, we make use of DDL statements. At the same time, we have another component of SQL, which is DML. And when we bring in DML, DML basically stands for data manipulation language, and we make use of it to manipulate data within the objects that you'll have created. So these given objects that we create above, they'll have data. And in them having data, how best do we manipulate or manage the data within these given objects? We make use of DML statements. And the last component of SQL that we basically make use of, which is data control language. Data control language is made use of to provide controlled access to the database. So when we talk of controlled access to the database, we are majorly focusing on an element of security. And when we talk of security, security comes in various forms. Probably security, you could look at it in the sense of users need to authenticate themselves before they make use of the database. So we shall need to have usernames and passwords for users to authenticate themselves. after they've authenticated themselves, we have a wide range of objects that we are basically making use of. So of these given objects, which we are calling set tables, we can go ahead and assign privileges to users to either grant them the permissions to perform particular tasks, or we can be able to revoke privileges from particular users from taking on particular tasks. Just imagine it has a, and this given column, salaries, is part of the accounts department. Database administrator, we expect that you can be able to revoke privileges of users being able to modify and grant or revoke privileges. So and ask ourselves, whenever we talk about database, there is one of the main objects. The main objects that a database would have is basically what we refer to as tables. Any database basically has what we refer to as tables. So when we talk of a table, we regard to a table as a tabular representation, of data that is arranged in a column and row format. So this main object that we deal with whenever we are talking of a database is a table. And of course, it helps us in storing our data, and this given data is arranged in form of columns and rows, So in we having this given table, one of the tasks that you're going to have at mind is we have this given object. So what is expected of a user to be able to manipulate data in a table? What expectation do we have? You've logged in, and in logging in, you're expected to be able to create an object which we are calling a table. So one of the main expectations that we expect any user to be able to create a table, one, for you to be able to create a table, we expect that you're supposed to be having a privilege to be able to create a table. So we expect that any user should be able to have a create table privilege to be able to create this given table. We're going to look at how we can create user accounts, but it is not mandated that any user account that we create will automatically be able to create a table. No, not until the administrator gives you a privilege of being able to create a table is when you shall be able to create a table. So that's a privilege that the admin would be able to give you. And once you have this given privilege, then you can be able to create a given table. After you have that given privilege, for you to create a table, we would expect that you as a user are expected to be having storage space. When the administrator gives you a user account, the next question would probably be, what storage space have they basically given you to make use of? This given database is going to be accessed by multiple users. And in it being accessed by multiple users, we partition different storage spaces to these different users. So for us to create a given table, we expected to have storage space, or what we refer to as storage area. So once you have this given storage space or area, then you can basically go ahead and start creating this given table. So after we basically talked of these given two aspects, we go ahead and bring in what is the basic syntax of creating this given object we are calling a table. Are we together, class? There is some bit of silence. I hope we are together.
Yes, we are together.
Okay, apart from Milton, the others, are we okay?
Very. Yes, we are very okay.
Okay. So when we bring in this given table, the next thing that we bring in is an aspect of a basic syntax of we creating a table. So for us to create a table, one element, we're supposed to specify the table name. Let me use an underscore. We're supposed to create a table name. Then the next thing is we're supposed to specify the column names of this given table. So when we talk of column names will be the characteristics that define this given table. And after you've specified the column name, you specify what data types you basically make use of. And lastly, you can specify the column size. Of course, this is optional. I'll put that in bracket. Specifying column size is ideally optional. So the syntax of we creating a given table, we shall specify the table name, the column name, the data types, and the size. And for instance, we want to create a table, and the table is, we want to create a table employee. So in creating a table employee, one of the things you're going to ask yourself, what will be the characteristics that define a table employee? So our syntax in terms of SQL, we shall say create table employee. And once we create this given table employee, we open the bracket. So class, what would be some of the characteristics that define an employee? Any suggestions? We have probably want to specify their first name. We want to specify their last name. We want to specify their date of birth, and I'll say their data type is date, and I probably want to capture their salary as well. So in this given case, the syntax will be create table, specify the table name. I go ahead and specify the characteristics that will define this given table, and I have the data types for each of those. So the table name is employee, the column names are F name, L name, DOB, and salary. The data types are varchar, date, and salary. And of course, we talked of column size is ideally optional. But I would want to ask basically something simple or something intriguing to the mind, and it is in line with our data types. And the question takes the form of, why is it essential for us to choose appropriate data types whenever we are basically creating these given objects like tables? Why is it relevant for us to choose? Why is it relevant to choose appropriate data types? Data types whenever you're creating objects. Any submissions? Let's have some bit of interaction. Yes, Dennis.
Thank you, Doctor. I think can help us limit some errors. For example, if you just declare like the date of birth as it may be a character data type, it may cause some errors. Someone can enter maybe just a name, but if you specify like a date, we only accept date data format in that column.
So to fine tune what Dennis has basically said, we are basically talking of the fact that we are specifying data types so that we have an aspect of consistency. The data that you're basically capturing should fulfill the principle of consistency. Consistency in the sense that if at all I've said character, I don't expect you to be capturing numbers. If at all you've chosen integer will basically be storing just plain numbers. So the data that you'll be having in a given column will be of a particular unified format. Any other reason? Yes, Francis. Oh, that's Newton. Yes, Newton, I see your hand is up. Newton, please go ahead and speak. Turn on your microphone. Okay, Newton has forgotten to turn on their microphone. Francis Ziwa, you can go ahead and react.
I think it's for data validation.
Data validation, it brings in an aspect of value. When you talk of data validation, can you throw more light to that?
It is related to consistency. In other words, if you are expecting a number, don't put again a later.
So
the DBMS will throw it out.
So if you say it is in line, then it is more or less the same point when you talk of validation. But here, we're basically saying to it that we have only clean data. Any other reason? Enoch, you have something to say?
Thank you, Doctor. I think that helps to improve performance by ensuring correct execution plan.
Okay, when you choose appropriate data types, it improves on performance based on the fact that you'll have specified a rightful data type for a given column. It boosts the performance of the given DBMS that you're basically making use of. Eddie, finally, your hand is up. You're most welcome to the session. Let's get to hear from you.
And there is an element of data integrity, almost data integrity.
If I may ask Eddie, how is integrity different from validation? If I may ask.
Integrity, it is to do with garbage in, garbage out. When you enter something wrong, you get something wrong.
Yet validation?
Validation. I think validation is something to do with an up-to-date information, maybe something. You update your database and you have current data.
I thought when I validate, I'm just thinking, you can prove me wrong. I thought when I validate my data that is being captured in a given column, then the data that I'll have captured will have fulfilled the principle of integrity based on the fact that I've done a validation. Because when I put a validation rule, that this given data that I have a column H, the values that are supposed to be captured are in the range of 18 to 60. I'm bringing in an element of validation. And of course, when I say 18 to 60, the data that I'll definitely have to view into this given table will be fulfilling the element of integrity. So drawing a thin line between validation vis-a-vis integrity, I basically have question marks if at all there is a very big difference between the two.
Actually, all the three words, integrity, consistency, validation, they are all concerned with accurate data. It is to do with data accuracy.
I get to realize,
so
thank you. Good, the goalpost has basically been changed. Let's get to hear from Newton as well. Newton, did you have something?
I think it helps to eliminate data redundancy.
Redundancy, throw light to that.
So data redundancy is when there is repeated data within the database.
So give an example, Newton. In case I say age int, when I say age int, can't I have 1010 replicated like 5 times?
Yeah. Yeah, but
because when you talk of redundancy, in my own perception, what we mean by redundancy is an aspect of replica values.
Yes.
Replica. So when I say age int, will that deprive me from capturing 10, 40 times?
But there you'll be misusing space in the database, consuming a lot of space. Yet
I'm presuming I have 40 employees, and in having this given 40 employees, I have a scenario of 10 of them are of the same age. They are different employees, but we have the same age. So will a data type deprive me from fulfilling that?
No, no, it can't.
So the aspect of redundancy, don't you get to realize that we need to have a better justification for what you meant by redundancy?
In redundancy, I mean that, for example, in one column, we can be having age, and we use the data type of age in the column. Then in another column, we specify the data type, for example, char, or int, so that the information in another column is different from the one which is in the first column. So this helps to eliminate redundancy in different columns. So data types can help in eliminating that.
A little bit of reservations. I get to find that from your explanation, the explanation still draws to an element of consistency and uniformity. Because when I say int, it will just be plain numbers on age. When I say car on name, it will just be plain characters, which draws to an element of uniformity. Let's lastly get to hear from Jeff Kalule.
Thank you, Doctor. Data types, it helps us to specify or it helps the user to query from the database the exact information that is required. For example, if you are querying the database and you need maybe a PIN number, of course, it will not bring only characters or what. It will just go direct into the database and select select from the entity with the data type, for example, int, or depending on the specification of that type of the data.
Okay,
thank you. That's what I think.
Thank you, Kalule, for your submission. I want to fine-tune your submission, Kalule, briefly. And I would say, based on your submission, I'll fine-tune it and say, we have operators. Operators work on operands best the data type. I bring in a, okay, I see hands are still up. I'll open the floor once again. I wanted to explain briefly towards what I think Kalule was bringing on board. And a point in regard to why choosing data types is relevant. And we're talking of the fact that we're dealing with data and there has to be some form of manipulation. And when we're having some form of manipulation, there will be some basic operators, there will as well be some bit of operands. So we are talking of the fact that it's essential for us to choose an appropriate data type based on the fact that operators work on the operands based on the data type that has been made use of. And I'll give an example. Just a second, let me have another white space. I write something of the sort for us to help us understand that point. Int A is equal to 10. Int B is equal to 50. Then int C is equal to A plus B. Let me increase that. Then I bring in something else. Char A is equal to 10. Char B is equal to 50. Char C is equal to A plus B. So I have bullet 1 and I have bullet 2. And in having bullet 1 vis-a-vis bullet 2, we are looking at an aspect of we are declaring a variable A, assigning it 10, declaring a variable B, giving it 50, and we have some basic computation there. Int C is equal to that. So based on this given one, what result set shall we have as our final set in variable C? Enoch, what shall we have as our final variable in C?
Doctor, put the offside. My concern was previously, I think, on the other cases, not this. But let me read it. Thank you.
Your concern was?
I think I had already answered it.
Okay. Dennis, when we have that, what would be our final resultant set for Roman 1?
Be 60.
It will be 60. Then still, Dennis, when we go to the one below, what will be our final result set for the one below?
I think it will generate an error since the data type is in car.
It will generate an error. Do all of us agree it's generating an error? Do we have a totally different submission? Francis, I see your hand is up.
I think I agree to generate an error, but I also wanted to give another advantage of defining data types, which is storage management, because different data types have different storage requirements.
That's very true. That's very true. Francis, your submission is very, very valid in the aspect of storage management, based on the fact that when you bring it int, when you bring in long, the kind of data that it stores will basically be varying. So that's a third point. So before we basically conclude what you just talked of, storage management, we had this question at hand. Does someone have a different submission in regard to what the Roman 2?
Yes.
I think Roman 2 should be 1050.
1050.
Yes.
So that's very true. It will not actually bring an error. It will basically bring a value in the sense that when you declare int a, when you declare int, you'll find that we have operands which are 10 and 50, and we have this given operator plus. The moment you declare a data type as int, this given operator plus will be looked at as an addition, that I'm adding 10 plus a 50 and I'll get a 60. When you declare it as car, and in you having car and you bring in this given operator plus, the operator will not be looked at as an addition. It's going to be looked at as a concatenation operator, that I'm just merging value A and value B to become one given complete set. So it's very, very relevant for you to choose an appropriate data type based on the fact that these given operators that we're basically making use of, depending on the data type that you basically have made use of, then the operation will definitely, the predefined operation will definitely come about as a result of the data type that you basically made use of. So that's the point that I was basically trying to drive at, to basically try to throw better light in regard to what I think there was a user called either Kaleo or Kasule that they were trying to bring on board. But of course, someone has brought in a third point, which is an element of storage management. And once we bring in an element of storage management, we have a wide range of data types, and having these different wide ranges, depending on the data type that you'll have made use of, you get sufficient storage based on the data type you'll have made use of. So that was a basic overview. And in we having a basic overview, I want us to basically kickstart off on how best we can make use of this given Oracle DBMS. So are we together, members? I hope we are together before I switch to the next screen.
Yes, we are together.
Okay. So from that, we get to realize that you've gone ahead, you've installed the DBMS, and installing your given DBMS, you need to basically start making use of this given DBMS. So I'll stop sharing this screen and bring in another screen. Let me share my browser. Just a second. So from that given point of view, I get to find that, yes, we've gotten to have an overview, a basic overview. But in having this given overview, from our theoretical class, we basically talked of the fact that a database is a shared resource that has to be accessed by multiple users. And in it being accessed by the multiple users, we're going to have to install our server machine with a desired DBMS. And after we have installed onto a server machine with a desired DBMS, then we shall have other users have access to that given shared resource. That's where we basically brought in discussing different multi-user architectures that can be made use of. Teleprocessing, file server, client server, and what have you. So on the machine that I'm basically making use of, the presumption is it is the server, at the same time it is the client. So when you successfully install your given Oracle, for you to be able to launch it, you'll go to your address bar. And once you go to your address bar, you'll patch in HTTP. We access it off the browser. Please follow. In your free time, you'll basically do your given practice. So in having that, I'll http://. Those of us from a networking class, we know what a loopback address is. I'll put in my loopback address. And after I put in my loopback address, the port that we basically make, the listening port that Oracle basically makes use of, or most of the DBMSs make use of, that is port 8080/Apex. So when I patch that onto my browser, this is not an online tool. This is after you've installed your given Oracle. When you patch in this, you'll get a window similar to this. And in getting a window similar to that, you'll basically type in the default username. Once you install is system. And once you put in your system password, you go ahead and put in your password. So at the time when you're installing, our expectation is you basically can remember the password you made use of while you're installing. Let me hope I still remember the password I made use of. Okay. So once you patch in your given password, you'll have an interface similar to this. And in having this interface similar to this, we have different tools that we can make use of. We have the administration tool, we have the object browser, we have SQL, and we have utilities. So in that given case, you get to find that depending on what you want to do, you can basically kickstart off in making use of it. And you get to find that I have logged in as system. But you get to find that at times, a user may not want to make use of this given loopback. Not necessarily. I've installed my server machine, and in installing my server machine, of course, I expect that you assign a meaningful name to your server. And there are going to be other users that are going to be having access to this given server so that they make use of the database. So once you assign a meaningful name to your machine or your server, then the users can be able to access the server, then they can basically do their own databases. So in case I'm using a Windows platform, how best can I be able to get to know my machine name? What basic command can I use to get to know my machine name?
Just go to the command prompt and type in host name.
I go to command prompt, and in going to command prompt, it says I type in host name.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yes.
So it tells me my machine name is MK. So if at all, I'm presuming this is my server machine that is MK, and I have 10 users that have to access this. So all they'll need to do, let me open another tab here. They'll key in HTTP colon. So in putting in colon / they'll put in the server name, which is MK. In case you've not yet made use of the machine name or host name, you make use of the IP address of your given server machine. Are you using a class C IP address, class B, or class A of your organization? So you tab in that given IP address. So I'm using the host name. So I'll go and bring in the listening port 8080, and I bring in /apex. And once I patch in that, it basically brings me to this window whereby I have to authenticate myself. So depending on you as a given user, you set up your given server so that other users can be able to access it. So after we've logged in, it is not prudent for you to basically make use of the system account to do your personal practice. The system account is basically made use of to do administrative work. So I would encourage that please do not make use of your system account to basically do your given practice. It is good enough that when you have your system account, you can be able to create another user account or other user accounts that you can basically be able to play around with. So I want us to be able to create a user account that we shall be able to use while doing our given practice. And I'll come and in case I want to create a user account on this given feature of administration, I'll come to administration. Then when I come to administration, I create database users and I'll create a user. So when I click on create user, it's going to prompt me to be able to create a user account. And the user account that I want to create, I'll give it a user name, ICT, and the password, you type in a desired password that you'd want to make use of for this given user account. So for me, I'll just still make use of ICT so that I don't forget. So after you've typed in your desired username and password, there are some aspects that come in here. What does this mean at the time of creating the user account? Expire password basically means that you're the administrator and you're creating a user account for ICT, but you'd want that whenever this given user is to make use of this given account, the system should prompt them to be able to change their password to a desired password of their own. So just imagine we have Newton, and I've come in, I'm asking Newton, create me a user account for ICT. So Newton will tell me I've created this given user account ICT. They'll tell me the default password is ICT, but me as a user whom they are creating an account for, before I make use of this given account, it will prompt me to be able to change this given account to a desired password of my own. So this is what that does. Then there is this given feature, account lock, account status, lock, unlock, or locked. We shall make use of that feature later on when we go into administration. There could be scenarios where we are in a work environment and we have an employee who deals with sensitive data in their day-to-day work, but they go on leave. But once they go on leave, we do not want them to be able to access our given database when they are on leave. So once they're on leave, we can be able to lock their account that yes, however much they have a rightful username and password, they should not log into the system and do shady work. So not until when they return is when we can unlock their account for them so that they can be able to make use of it. Then of course, for now, we shall leave it in unlock. I talked about privileges, and in creating privileges, privileges are rights for a user to be able to perform particular tasks. Once you have a privilege, then that basically means you can perform a given task. So this given user account, which is ICT, I want it to be a super user account. So I'll say, I'll give it a DBA role, and I'll give it all these given privileges that we can do super admin kind of work. In case this is tedious for you clicking all over, you just come and click on check all, and it will check all of them. After that is done, I click on create and I am done. Oops, just a second. Okay, I think this computer made use of the ICT profile already. Let me think of, let me use Rubaga, I think, as a user account. I already have a user account who has ICT on my whatever. Rubaga. Then I create. So when I do that, you'll get to find that I have already some user accounts. I already have some user accounts that were created. And of course, I've logged in as system, and I'm going to log out. And once I log out, I have to log in as Rubaga. So when I log in as Rubaga, that's the username. I'll come and patch in the password. And remember, we said password expire. Remember that. So when I click on login, you'll get to realize that the moment I put in, I had checked on password expire, it will prompt this given user to punch in their new password. So a new you have to patch in the old password, then you can put in a new password. Rubaga 123. Then Rubaga 123. Then I apply changes. So when I apply changes, the new password has been effected and I'm done. So the next time when I log in using Rubaga, the password Rubaga should not be active. These are 6 characters. It can't be active. It will tell you password invalid. Not until I put in the new password that I had put in. The new password is Rubaga 123. So when I have Rubaga 123, you find that the user account that is ideally active as of now is the Rubaga account. Are we together, members?
Yes.
Okay. So I want us to now, I had already created some basic table, but of course I'll leave a basic table that you will create in your free time so that the next time when we are practicing, we are making use of that given table. But the table that I had created was in the system profile. Let me run back to system and make use of that table to do some basic data retrieval. So after you've logged in, what we want to start off with is running SQL statements. So go to SQL, then go to SQL commands. And when I have my SQL commands, I'll have an interface similar to this. So in having an interface similar to that, I'll basically go ahead and write simple basic statements. Let me see if at all I have any table. Let me presume I want to create we are starting from scratch. The first object that we want to create is a table says student, and we're just going to assign some basic columns and insert simple basic values, then do data retrieval. So in case we want to create a table student, we should use our syntax, create table. Creating table student, there will be some attributes that describe a student. So in having these given attributes that describe a student, address, let's say they probably pay fees. Let me just have, just for sample purposes. So after we've done that, we run this statement. And once this given statement is run, I'm running in the system account and I'd already thought of that given table student. So I'll prefix it with student ZZ so that it's a different object name. So I'll do that, and it tells me this table has been created. So the table that has been created comprises of 4 columns. So if at all I would want to get to know the structure, or what we call the relation schema of this given table, you'll have to describe this given table, students. So when I say describe students, it will bring you what we call a relation schema. And once it brings you a relation schema, this given relation schema will give you a summary of what is entailed in that table. That the table is student, these are the different columns, these are the data types that were made use of, and the length that was basically assigned to them. So once that table, yes.
Where is the run? Where are you pressing to? You do enter, or where is the run?
You see where my cursor is?
Where?
The other users.
Oh, yeah, at the end.
At the
okay,
end.
Sorry. Yeah.
Right towards the top.
I've seen it. Sorry, I'm using a phone. Okay.
Yeah, so the phone, I think you're having a limited view.
Gives you a small.
Okay.
Okay.
So after the table has been created, the next presumption is we should be able to insert sample data. So sample data should be very, very basic to us. So I'll insert into student ZZZ. So the first presumption is, in case all the values are known to you, how will you capture this given data? So in case all values are known to you, the F name is known to you, and in case it's known to you, I'll probably have Eddie. Eddie can be a case study for us. So I'll have Eddie as the first name. I'll go ahead and bring in the last name. The last name is that. And of course, I'll bring their address. They are based in Kampala. And the last element is the fees that they pay. So when you're dealing with SQL, we have what referred to as string literals, and all string literals are enclosed in quotes, as long as string is a combination of characters. So anything that is a combination of characters, once you're passing this given string literal, it has to be enclosed in quotes. Then when we have numeric literals, for instance, fees is numeric, the numeric is not basically enclosed in quotes. So I'll go ahead and insert this given data, and that given one row is captured. I'll probably insert another value, and the other value probably is Martha. The value is a Twine, and they're based in Masaka, and their fees is probably that. So in this case, when I capture this given row, we shall be able to capture that given data. But the instance that we're basically talking of is when all values are known to you. So when we want to view the data that has been captured, I'll just have a simple basic statement. Select stuff from student ZZZ. So in having select stuff from student ZZZ, you have to terminate your statements, a semicolon at the end, and I run. You find that this is the table structure that I basically have with the 2 records. But the question I was bringing on board, what if I only know values of F name and L name, but the address and fees were not given to me at the time of data capture? How will I be able to capture that given data? Faith, could you probably have a suggestion? I know only Faith, Mabala, I don't know how that you pronounce your name, but I don't know their address and fees. What syntax would I write to be able to capture those only 2 records? Let's get to hear from Faith. if they are present. Okay, Faith is not anywhere to be seen. I think, yeah, those are usually behaviors of people who log in and go and do other things. They only come back to log out. Mwesigwa Gilbert, in case I only want to capture Mwesigwa Gilbert for the first two columns and the last ones are not known to me, can you help us probably articulate how best I can modify that insert statement?
And the last columns are not known.
Yes, the last two are not known. The first two are known, it's Gilbert Mwesigwa.
Can I assume we put null?
You can read out the statement, I'll type. So
Insert into student values Mwesigwa comma null, not okay, comma null.
are these nulls enclosed in quotes?
No.
Just that.
Yes.
Okay. So when I have that, it tells me a row is inserted. And when I basically do that, it brings in that. So that is basically a valid way of how you can capture record. Alternatively, in case you've not made use of Gilbert's format, you can say, other syntax, you can say, I can say insert to student ZZZ values, and the values, sorry, I only know the first two columns. I'll specify the first two columns that are known to me. Then I bring in the other one is values, then I open bracket. Then I bring in, for instance, the value is Alice. The value is Payre. I close that. So this given syntax too is similar to the first one, though I'll specify the columns that I want to, that are known to me, to which I'm going to capture values. I bring in the keyword values, then I specify the actual values. So when I run that, that row will be inserted and you'll get to realize that the record that we basically have is basically a null. This given, when you're making use of Oracle, these given dashes mean null. When you're using MySQL, the actual keyword now will basically be reflected in your given table. And to validate that, we can write a basic statement to affirm the rows or the records that have a null element. When I say select star from student ZZ, where fees is null, you'll get to realize that to bring this given two records, however much they are dashes, the compiler will be able to understand that these are the records that have to definitely be captured. In that given case, you find that these given two records are basically retrieved in your resultant set. Yes, Enoch?
Yes, thank you, Doctor. In a situation, I don't know the first two names or the first details when I'm using your formula you just used, the second formula you used. How do I go about that?
I didn't get the question. Restate that. In the situation that
I don't know the first two values, but I know the last two values.
Oh, okay. So we have this. You know the address and fees, but you do not know the F name and L name.
Yes.
So in such a case, we shall say address. The other is fees. And we are saying EBS and so in such a case, it will bring the first two now, and the last one basically will be having the EBS and the 6,000. I submit Enoch. I think Enoch, that was your concern.
Yeah, sorted. Thank you.
Jeff Kalule.
Yes, doctor. Where we have now, how about if we put it in a single quotes and we leave it, we cross brackets, terminate, and we run? What will it bring? Where there is a Gilbert Mwesigwa, then now, we just put it in quotes.
Doctor,
Can we try it?
can I comment on that?
Someone wants to give a submission to that. Mwesigwa Gilbert,
Yes.
help us with that.
When you put it in quotes, that means it will be taken as a value for that entry. The null will be counted as the address. Thank you.
Won't it capture just nothing?
No, it will, that word now will be looked at as a string. Yet we do not want to look at it as a string. Henceforth, we don't make use of those given quotes when we are capturing data into that given null element. Null is a keyword in SQL, and in it being a keyword, we just make use of null as a given keyword. There is a different, when you look at Mwesigwa, Mwesigwa is a string literal, and in it being a string literal, that is not a key. Mwesigwa is not a keyword. So it being a string literal, we're enclosing it in quotes. When we bring in this given keyword null, null is not a string literal. Null is a keyword that SQL basically understands. Henceforth, we don't basically enclose it in quotes. When you enclose it in quotes, then it will seem as though you've just typed in this given keyword null. Yet we don't want to.
Excuse me, doctor. Doctor, I just wanted us to remove null, but we just put quotes there as we leave just quotes, but inside there's nothing.
Okay.
I would like us to try it, yes.
I think you've changed your question. Was that your initial question?
Yes. I wanted us to put quotes, then the second now we put quotes, we close brackets and terminate, then we run and see what it will bring.
I think it will basically, okay, let's do as you request.
It's on the chart, what he wants.
Yes, I don't know who is basically giving a submission. I've forgotten the name. So it still brings the same thing. So there are various ways of killing a rat. So depending on the method that you basically are making use of, as long as the rat dies, it's up to you to basically choose an appropriate method. So that will still work.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay, so we proceed and basically go ahead. Let's look very fast at data querying. And of course, I would want you to, whenever we're doing this data querying, you relate it to the relational algebra that we did. Let me see if I have some basic table here. Okay, I have a basic table that I've created. That's the structure of the table. And I would want us to look at a data retrieval. Just a second, let me just type down what I would want us to. This is just revision that some of us already know. We shall go on building onto what we already know. Data retrieval. So data retrieval comes in various forms. And of course, when we talk of it coming in various forms, I have already a data set that I've basically already created, so we can make use of this. With time, we can use your given data set with time. I had already created a table. So thank you, that was Lameka. So in that given case, I can look at data retrieval can come in various forms. I can look at it in aspects of all columns, all rows. I can look at it in all columns and specific. I can look at it in terms of specific. And specific rows. And I can look at it in terms of let's first look at it, data retrieval in this given 4 categorization. So in looking at it in those given 4 categorization, one of the main statements that we basically make use of whenever we are retrieving data is we say select star. Star means all columns, and you're retrieving this given all columns from a given table employee. So the first submission is already done when we say we are retrieving all columns and all rows, as long as I've made use of an arysteresis. The arysteresis means all columns. Alternatively, of course, some people would go through the tedious way of specifying all the columns separated by commas. So they will say staff number, F name, L name, position, gender, salary, branch number, from employee. But that is tedious, not helping you in any way. As long as I want all the columns, I'll make use of the arysteresis, and all the columns will be inclusive in my resultant set. But when we proceed to 2, we are talking of the fact that I would want, whenever we are, I hear someone's mic is on. I don't know if at all they are submitting to what I'm saying.
Yes, I have a question on that.
Okay.
Yes. I was asking the selection, when you say select all columns, do you specify on the table, or you specify on what is in, because for the shortcut, I'm talking about this, the shortcut for select. Do you specify a table name? For example, this table.
Help me rephrase the question, because I failed to give a submission because I didn't understand well the question. I asked for pardon because I wanted to give a submission, but I didn't understand the question well.
I just needed you to shed more light on and to tell me on the selecting, on the two different different methods you've used. The one which is select from employee, and the other one which is select whereby you have to list everything. The question is, when you say select from employee, do you select from employee from the whole table, because the table has different variables?
Okay. Let me probably take that time. The question that we had was at hand was, we're retrieving all columns and all rows. And when you look at this given table that was created, these are all the columns that we have, from staff number to branch number. And from top to bottom, these are the rows that we have. So when we say you're retrieving all columns, whenever we make use of select as a keyword in terms of syntax, select as a keyword, the next element is specify the columns that you want to retrieve. So what's my focus? My focus is all the columns. So in case I want all the columns, this given hysteresis will basically append all the columns. So when I say all the columns, where are you retrieving this given data from? The data, you're retrieving it from a table employee. So before you specify the table name, we bring in a keyword from, then you specify the table name. So in that given case, it is retrieving all the columns from a given table employee, but all the rows will be inclusive based on the fact that we did not filter anything. When we say this, it will still bring the same thing, but you're just segmenting every column with a comma. So what you'll have written here is ideally the same thing that we shall have written down. This, you're just bothering yourself, segmenting each given column by a comma, but as long as you've specified them. So when I run this, that was our output. When I run this, it will be the same output. There will not be any form of difference between these given two. So ideally, you're basically zeroing down to the same thing of you're retrieving all columns and rows from a given table. I submit. So when we go to Roman 2, Roman 2 is in an instance of the condition that we have at hand would probably want to retrieve all columns and specific rows. Just imagine, in case I would want to retrieve all data from the employee table of individuals that are working as assistants. In that given case, I'm going to have something of the sort, select star, meaning all columns, and I'm saying from a given table employee, but we are talking of specific rows. Whenever you talk of specific, that means there has to be some form of filtering. Filter out rows that are satisfying a given condition. So what keyword can we basically make use of to filter? There are various keywords you can make use of to filter, but one of the main keywords we make use of for filtering is the where clause. So in this given case, I only want individuals that are employed as managers. Let me say managers. I'll say where position is equal to so when I say where position is equal to manager, you'll get to realize that all columns will be inclusive with only specific rows of individuals that are working as managers. So it has only extracted out these two are the ones that are satisfying, but all these other columns are basically in your resultant set. So it is up to you as a given user. What condition do you have at hand? And in having this given condition, you want to generate a resultant view. From generating this given resultant view, you use an appropriate operator that will basically be able to satisfy that given concern at hand. For instance, I pose a question to the class, and in posing the question to the class, someone is formulating us an SQL statement that will retrieve all details of staff that are having a salary range, that are having a salary in the range of 18,000 to 30,000. We looked at relational algebra, and we want to convert that relational algebra expression into an SQL statement. And we are retrieving all details of staff that are having a salary in the range of 18,000 to 30,000. What kind of statement can I write? Any trial? Okay. So in that given range, of course, based on the condition, you find that it's all columns, but we have specific rows as well, and we are effecting a range. Yes, Dennis, your hand is up.
Doctor, I'd like to try out.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can select
all from employee where salary greater than 10,000 and the and operator salary is less than 30,000.
Thank you so much. So you find that in this, I'm having all columns, but in having all these given columns, I'm only retrieving those that are in that given range. And in having those that are in that given range, when I run that, it is only one individual that satisfies that given condition. So if at all you could remember in your relational algebra, we wrote something of that sort. If at all I can remind you, they go hand in hand. Oops, sorry. Let me bring my whiteboard. Clear drawings. We wrote something of the sort. I bring in project, and when I project, let me type something here down. I project, I can say F name, L name, salary, probably you. I don't remember the other column, designation. But then, just a second, then I bring in something else here. Salary greater than 18,000 and salary less than 30,000 from a given table. Employee. And these are in brackets. For just a second, I bring it back. So in this given case, I have a dot there, and I bring in a selection symbol. So ideally what this means, we are projecting, bring all the columns that you want in your resultant table. So all these given columns, F name, L name, salary will be brought in this given table, but only filter out. So this selection is equivalent to the where clause. When we bring in the where clause, if at all you remember when we talked of select, select is meant use of to retrieve out rows that satisfy a given condition. So the where is equivalent to this given select, and that is the condition. Then when we say project, project is equivalent to the keyword select that we have in SQL, and we bring in the particular columns that you want to be part of your table. So I'll have the F name, L name, salary, and designation, and only bring in a filtering with bringing in this given selection operator. So there is a very, very big correlation between when you're writing your relational algebra expressions vis-a-vis your SQL statements. Are we together?
Yes, we are together.
Okay. So I go back to our screen that we were using. So in having this, we were addressing bullet 2. Bullet 3, based on the table that we have, that is our original base table. Could anyone help us formulate any SQL statement of their choice that will satisfy that highlighted statement? Specific columns and specific rows. You're relating this to relational algebra and you're bringing in an SQL. Specific and specific rows. Maweje, today you're quiet. We want to get to hear from you.
Can I suggest something? I have
Before Maweje, just a second, Maweje. Alice, you wanted to give a submission. Alice, your microphone was on. We can't hear you now.
Yes, I wanted to suggest something. Could select, let's say we're going to select columns, first name, last name of staff whose salaries are in the other range. So we write select F name.
Okay, select
F name, comma, L name from employee, where salary is greater than 18,000 and salary is less than 30,000.
Something like that.
Yes.
That's valid. So the valid in the sense that the specific columns are these just two. You only want this given two. In case you want to have a third column, you go ahead and include the third column out of the many from employees where salary is in that given range. So when we have that and we run, you get to find that those given three columns are the ones that are basically being brought in your resultant set, and we have only one value. Let me probably put 10,000 to 8 so that we have more rows that are satisfying. So that will basically bring in an element of specific columns, which are these, and specific rows, which are that. Thanks, Alice. Maweje, you had something to say?
No, I don't have anything to say. I just joined in, sorry, and I'm just trying to be attentive.
Okay. Then we have 4. And in having 4, we have specific columns and all rows. We are talking of specific columns and all rows. And we want a member to basically help us with a submission to that. Sharon Akello, you'll help us with that. Sharon Akello, please turn on your microphone. You help us with that.
So I didn't get the question clearly.
We are at this bullet 4, specific columns and all rows. And you're formulating us an SQL statement that will satisfy that. Please, we are listening, Sharon. Okay, Sharon has decided to keep quiet on us. Anybody who would want to give a trial to that? Roman 4. The way Sharon has rushed to mute her microphone. Not any statement. Run away very, very fast. I don't have anything to talk to you. I'll wait for you in the presentation tomorrow. You will talk. Yeah. Any trial? Yes, Dennis.
All right, select.
Select.
F name.
F name.
Comma L name.
L name.
Comma salary. From employee. And terminate. I stop from.
So in that given case, when we have something of the sort, then we terminate. You'll get to realize that we are talking of specific columns. Those are the only specific columns, but we are talking of all rows. The moment you do not include a where clause, the entire rows that are part of that given table will be in your resultant table. So the where clause, the having clause, we're going to be looking at other clauses like the in operator. You get to realize that they help in filtering out rows that are satisfying given conditions. But if at all I just say from this given table without appending a filtering keyword, then all the rows will be in your resultant set. Any concern? Okay. Josephine.
Mine is just an inquiry. What if you start from select salary, then you specify first name, last name? No, like select from employee, select employee, then
Just a second. Let me type what you're saying. Select, reset that.
Employee.
Select employee.
Like, then you specify the first name, last name, salary. Can't it give us this both specific colors?
Something like that. Is that what you're saying? Josephine, to give a submission to that, whenever we have a language that we are basically making use of, any language has what we call a syntax. So when we have what we call a syntax, that given syntax has to definitely be followed. It's a standard that yes, when you're writing an SQL statement, you first specify the columns. After specifying the columns, you specify the table from which you're retrieving this given data. Then afterwards, you can do a filtering. I can't start from table, then bring in the columns. So syntax is very key. So it would not run.
Thanks. All right.
Any other? So that's the error it will basically bring. You'll have violated the syntax. So in we having Rogers Dongo, you seem like something is burning.
Not yet. I'm just waiting for what you are going. Then I can comment.
Just waiting to comment. Okay. It's okay. So one of the things that we basically bring in is an aspect of, we can bring in arithmetic operators. And in dealing with the arithmetic operators in the sense that we have a column which is salary and it has numerical data. And in it having numerical data, you as a user, you can be able to perform some bits of computation on data that is numerical. Take, for instance, we have a column salary and you want to generate a report of individual, let's presume the salary is an annual salary. This is a presumption that in this given table, the salary is an annual salary, and we would want to get to know the monthly salaries of these given employees. How would we get to know the monthly salaries? In that given case, we expect that you're supposed to embed in arithmetic operators, the plus, the addition, the minus, and the subtraction within your select statement. So in case it's an annual salary and we want to get to know the annual salary, we shall be dividing salary divide by 12 to get to know the monthly salary. And the statement would take the form of, for instance, something of the sort. Bring in salary. So this is the initial salary. Then I bring in a new column, which is salary divide by 12. Divide by 12. So I'll call the new column monthly. So I am just generating a report of a comparison that what if this was an annual salary and I would want to get to know the monthly salaries of these employees. And in that given instance, you'll get to realize that this was the original salary. I have created a new column, an alias field. So in creating an alias field, the alias fields come about as a result of using the as keyword, and the column name will be monthly salary. And of course, you realize that 30,000 divided by 12, you get that value. 12,000 divided by 12, each of these is actually a monthly salary. So note, whenever you're making use of a select statement and you're retrieving data from a database, this given element resultant view, we call it just a view. It is not saved. The original table that we have is the employee that is ideally saved. This is the view that is saved as employee. But at a later time, I'll basically be demonstrating in case I would want to store this to be stored separately, how would I save it so that I can refer to it at a later time. That's where we bring in views, horizontal, vertical views, assign meaningful names to these given views so that you can always be able to refer to these given views at a later time. A question to the class, still to arithmetic operators. If at all I have this given column as salary, and it is appended on our table employee, and based on the fact that there's been a very high inflation rate in Uganda, and would want to increase all people's salaries by 20%. What kind of computation can I have in my SQL statement to have all people's salaries increased by 20%? Presumably, this is the salaries we're making use of. Someone else other than Dennis.
Can I try?
Alice?
Can I try?
Okay.
Yes.
Joshua, go
Yeah.
ahead.
You said you are increasing by 102.
By 20%.
Yes, yes. So I'll say select.
Select.
Staff name, staff number, F name, L name.
Let's just have a few. Let's go to salary, then get computation.
Then salary times 120.
Salary times
120. As the monthly increase. From employee.
That's Joshua. Thank you. Kamlegea. Let's get to hear from Milton. Milton has a different opinion from Kamlegea's. Kakuba Milton, when your hand is up, we are literally saying, go ahead and give your submission.
Yeah, I'm saying that where I has the rest, I would maintain the same, but I would only change from 120 to 1.2.
Yes. Yeah, that's 1.4. Sorry.
Something of the sort. Ziwa, you have a different opinion?
Before I give my opinion, can you help me repeat the question slightly?
The question was, presumably these are the salaries of employees.
Okay.
And we want to increase their salaries by 20%.
Okay.
With use of calculated fields, how would we go about it?
First of all, if at all we want to increase their salary, maybe we may issue an update statement. But however, if we want to do a select statement, I would write it like select staff number, F name, salary. Salary. Salary plus. No. Salary. Okay. After, okay, just backspace and reach salary. And it says salary plus salary times 0.2.
Times, did you say times?
Yes. As salary from salary increase from employee.
Okay, that's Ziwa. Lastly, I can see gender balance coming in. Malova Goret.
Thank you, sir. Now, leaving all other factors constant, I'm going to say select staff number, comma, first name, F name, sorry, comma, L name, comma, salary, comma, then salary times 0.2. Oh, yes, salary times 0.2 as salary increase or salary underscore increase from employee. Then we close.
Okay, let's have a thought on all of these. We start from Goret going upwards. So we are saying this from that. Remember,
Mr. Kulanja, can I defend my input before someone comes in to brush it?
Okay, please.
If we are doing a salary increase of 20%, we are going to take the salary multiplied by 20 divided by 100. 20 divided by 100 is 0.2. So if the salary is say 80,000 and we multiply it by 0.2, we are going to get 160,000. That is our 20% increment. That's why I say salary times 0.2.
Okay. It's the statement, it's your SQL statement that will basically justify to us. Okay. So in highlighting this and in highlighting that, we run, and my initial salary was 30,000. But I want a salary increment. I find I'm getting 6,000. So Goretti, will my salary have increased? I find that you're chopping my salary the more. Goret, do you get to see where we are coming from?
Yes.
When you want to give a submission, I kindly ask that you put up your hand as opposed to all of us speaking in the microphone at the same time. Brian?
Okay, thank you, sir. I just want to give some vision on that last query of Goretti.
Yes, we are hearing you.
I think it was supposed to be, I can say select F name, I mean staff name.
I mean, we want to modify. I had you.
Yes. Can I continue?
Yeah, we are listening.
I can say select your staff number, comma, F name, comma, L name, comma, salary, comma,
continue.
In bracket, salary plus salary times 0.2.
Just a second. Great, mate, get a tampering with her statement. In bracket, salary times 0.2.
Salary plus
0.2.
No, salary plus salary times 0.2. Times 0.2. I close. Yeah, as salary increase from employee.
Yeah, that's actually valid. So Goretti, unfortunately, there's a funny aspect when we say you're increasing. When you increase, the basic mathematics here to basically before we increase your salary, you're at 100%. But we are saying we have increased your salaries by 20%. So that would mean once we increase, we are saying 100 plus 20. Divide by the actual standardized value. So that's where we get the 120 divided by 100 for you to get this given value that people are multiplying by. So that's why people are bringing in salary is equal to salary times 1.2, in the sense that initially, before we increase, you're at 100. When we increase by 20%, it's 100 by 20. We have a 120 divided by the initial standard percentage, which is 100, is where we are getting this given constant, the 1.2. So in that given case, where stop share, then bring back this SQL. In that given case, that is where these such people are getting this given statement from. Those of us who had questions, where is this coming from? Salary times 1.2. The 1.2 is coming about as a result of 120 divided by 100 to get a 1.2. When we have this given statement, you'll get to realize that this given statement might make the company collapse. This would be a very, very, very big salary increment. It's not by 20%. A person was earning 30,000 and they find themselves earning now 3.6 million. You make such an error in the accounts department, people will shut up, they'll only go enjoy the money, and they'll probably work for the next 5 months without being paid, based on the fact that they already ate the money that was supposed to be given to them. There was this, well, that was fine, that was fine. This, we already said it has issues. This, it comes about in the sense that we have that computation, we have that computation that brings salary times 0.2, but we are incrementing it with the initial salary to have a salary spike. So this as well basically takes us to the right salary increment. So that was a basic mathematical element that we are embedding into our SQL statement. And the point that I'm driving at is when we have our SQL statements, we as users can be able to formulate basic mathematical expressions into them. And once we append these given mathematical expressions into them, we can be able to have a resultant set. There's someone, I think I'm forgetting the name. There's someone who was talking about update and what have you. Update, yes, is a DML statement, but for starters, I wanted us to follow a chronological flow of events. And in following a chronological flow of event, when you look at this heading that I gave, I talked of today, we are dealing with just data retrieval. And when we talk of data retrieval, the keyword that we basically make use of is select. When we run away from data retrieval and enter into DML, then your given keyword of update will be so much applicable. Enoch?
Yes, thank you, Doctor. In case I don't want to do the math for the system, maybe if you can scroll down to the second last statement. Okay. If I say I don't want to put the 0.2, I just put 20, then divide by 100. I replace the 0.2. Down on this one, the last one.
Salary, restate what you said. Salary
plus salary times
just a second, times
20 divided by 100.
Something like that?
Yes, please.
I hope you remember what we call body mass. Actually, the body mass does it automatically because this is our valid statement that brings that. 36,000, 14,400. This as well basically brings the same thing. Though usually at times when you're a mathematician, at times we want to bring in these brackets so that we ease on the computer understanding that this is an initial constant that we had, and in having this given initial constant is multiplying this by that. But your submission still will bring, oops. No, I have to have a closing bracket here. Since I had two opening, this and that, I need to bring in a closing one there. Yeah, so sorry, I forgot the name. It will all bring the same thing, but at times when you write very, very long formulas, at times you're writing mathematical expressions and they are way too long, and in them being way too long, you have to bring in an aspect of brackets to group them up so that you have a basic final submission. Vicent A, I see you're getting mesmerized by body mass. You have something to say?
No, actually, I was about to mention body mass before you mentioned it. You are ahead of me.
I reserve my comment towards that remark. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. We stop here for today, and in stopping here for today, in preparation for tomorrow's presentation, early in the morning, there was a schedule, and in having this given schedule, every individual was given a time slot. And in being given a time slot, the first group will be presenting at 8:15. The next one, I think, will be presenting at around 8:35. One of the things before you log into the system, okay, I would expect that you log into the system 5 minutes before your actual time that was given for you for presenting. You're going to wake up tomorrow early in the morning, and in waking up early in the morning, you will not be able to automatically log on to Moodle. You're going to be put in a pending state. So in being put in a pending state, at my side, I'll be able to admit you in the session, meaning in case group 1 is presenting, group 2 members, you'll not be in the session. You'll enter into the session when group 1 members have come out. So each session is going to be having 6 to 7 individuals. And of course, once you're in the session, other people will be in waiting state. That's why I say try as much as possible to try to log in 5 minutes before your actual time. I give a precaution. In case the time that we assign to you clocks and I'm waiting for you, you're nowhere to be seen. I'm waiting for you, you're nowhere to be seen. That given time will basically be, I'll wait for the 20 minutes that you've basically been wasting and you're nowhere to be seen. But of course, I have a wide range of parameters that I'm going to be assessing. When you join 2 minutes to the end of your time, brother, sister, I'm not going to add you more time. It is you who mismanaged your time. You came in 2 minutes late. In case I ask you just one question and I've assessed you from that one, I'll be waiting for the other group that basically is respecting their time. So don't join late and you basically get to realize that I've not basically assessed you. It is you who will have mismanaged your given time. So join 5 minutes before the time that has been slated to you. You'll be put in a waiting state. Don't worry being in a waiting state. I'll basically be seeing the individuals that will be in a waiting state and I'll basically be able to admit them. So that will definitely be our preparation for tomorrow. And the first group is at 8:15. So by 8:10, try as much as possible to log in. So that is it from me. I see you, Maweje and Vincent A. Your hands are up.
I was just saying that I like your mode of teaching and how the groups are arranged, and I'm just appreciative, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Maweje. Vincent A.
Mine is in.
I think the platform has been given to Vincent A. Vincent A, he's still struggling with how they put on a microphone. The next person whose hand is up is Joshua Kamlegea.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kwanja. I was suggesting that I wish we can be able to listen to everyone, since we want to learn from other members. And you listening to them alone. That's my suggestion.
Of course, that is your opinion or suggestion, and in it being an opinion or suggestion, it could be granted, it could be discarded. You find that if at all it is open from morning to evening, the people who basically come in last are of a great advantage, because when people are presenting, of course, I guide them that there you've gone wrong, here you're blah, 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 and what have you. The presenters who come in last basically at an advantage. When you join into your particular session, you enter in raw and you basically have to sweat your own way. So for the session, I'll definitely say, unfortunately, the request may not basically be granted. We shall see if at all we can get time to basically share opinions in regard to what you basically came up with, that from your discussions, this, and that were basically so lacking in the multiple groups that basically presented. So Kamlegi, unfortunately, we shall be joining at particular timings that have been slated to us. Mwesigwa Gilbert.
Thank you, sir. Mine is just, I think it is a comment or observation. When you assigned the work to the groups, some of the groups you assigned to us happen to have members who left long ago. So, for example, like ours has 2 people, so you let's take 2 people to present. Thank you. Not the entire people that even, okay, worry takers. Thank you.
So to react to that, Mwesigwa, I think I had tasked that the participants, please register yourselves, assign the groups to the class president, and I got these given groups from the class president. So that is basically an affirmation that you did not update the class representative in regard to the members that are part of your group. They brought an old list, and that is basically what I did. So if you're 2, you'll be assessed as 2 individuals in case the others are not around. Alice Sampere, lastly.
Thank you. Did you say we are using Moodle tomorrow for presentation?
We're using Zoom, the Zoom link.
Okay.
Zoom, yeah, not Moodle, the Zoom link. But of course, when you try logging in, you will not automatically enter into the session. You'll be put in a waiting state. Lastly, Ziwa.
Yeah, mine is about the course outline. You said you would upload it.
I'll try. The week has been very too fast, but I'll try as much as possible to go back on the platform. Tonight, I'm just going to sit down to basically read through what you basically uploaded, so that by the time you come tomorrow, I'm basically in the know of what you've compiled. But I'll try in the due course of the week to basically come up with something. Okay, we stop here for now. We shall basically be meeting tomorrow. The first group, try as much as possible to keep time. Yeah. Have a blessed evening.
Just be easy on us.
Karen has a question. Yes.